Welcome to our Research, Teaching and Learning group assessment. The first stage of our assessment was to collect data to help answer the question how the self-efficacy of pre-service and new graduate teachers is affected when managing unfamiliar learning areas. Accordingly, my individual question focused on the expectations of pre-service teachers and new graduate teachers and how this led to teacher burnout and the effect this had on teacher self-efficacy.
Hi, my name is Youssef, and my data collection focused on pre-service teacher self-efficacy and student engagement and how this affects the classroom environment. I surveyed 20 pre-service and new graduate teachers across a range of key learning areas, and was through this which I was able to collect quantitative data to demonstrate that teachers' confidence levels are influential to their students' success.
My name is Tugba, and my data collection focused on the impacts of the teacher's self-efficacy on students' achievement. Observation is used to collect data as a qualitative method. I collected my data by observing 4 classrooms, 2 of which were Year 8 and the 2 others were Year 9. All the classes were taught by different teachers.
Individual literature review was designed to understand the research around how high expectations on teachers led to teacher burnout and how this affects teacher self-efficacy. Literature that I had found throughout my research reflected very similar views by many different scholars. These views were that all of the scholars had found that the expectations that were placed on teachers at the beginning of their career by their superiors, as well as the community, students and parents of students, were the leading factor to why many teachers felt as though they were overworked, and that is why there is a high number of teachers who are quitting within the first 5 years of the career.
Through our literature review, it has been found that teachers encourage and stimulate student learning. Within this, we're able to determine that teachers' self-efficacy expectations influence belief about students' work interests, goals, and actions that comprise the classroom environment. Also, we identified, using Piaget's cognitive behavioral theory, that students learn actively and that teachers become a guide that provides them with opportunities to develop and construct meaning through their learning experiences, which is an essential characteristic of a professional teacher and can be imparted to students through their teaching and modelling. Furthermore, our literature also informed us that teachers perform many duties simultaneously as a part of their job and must develop an organised behaviour in their students for accomplishing the classroom tasks properly. Based on this dynamic, our research was able to establish that this is contingent with one's own behaviour and is affected by the level of self-efficacy through which teachers approach the many and often very different tasks in their teaching process. By way of example, a confident teacher has the motivation and initiative to implement more effective teaching pedagogies and promote better student achievement, whereas pre-service and new graduate teachers whose determination has been negatively impacted either when things do not go smoothly or because they feel they have not been appropriately prepared for the situation, can struggle to adapt their teaching styles or method according to the needs of students. Consequently, as a result, teachers construct beliefs about the capacity to perform at a given level of attainment, which affects their organisation and execution of actions during specific teaching tasks. It also directly influences their efforts put forth and what methodologies and approaches are taken during challenging situations. Accordingly, from this perspective, Lee, Chen and Sok argue that motivational behaviours chosen by teachers such as institutional goals, procedures, policies and structure, for example peer selectivity, institutional density, curriculum and research orientation, all affect students' engagement, attitudes and learning environment.
According to literature review, self-efficacy is significant in strengthening teachers' ability to face challenging experiences and difficulties. And the self-efficacy is shown to be more flexible when starting new teachers' career. Collaboration should begin from the time that pre-service teachers start their educational studies as well as professional practice, through reinforcing pre-service teachers' engagement with colleagues and experts. Thus, they can share and be open to different experiences and perspectives which might influence their teaching career. Such opportunities would highly develop reflective thinking by shared planning and negotiations with other colleagues. According to literature review, different school structures highly affect the way in which new teachers' collaboration is implemented. Thus, unstructured faculties would have negative impact on teachers' self-efficacy due to weak collaboration and weak working relationships. On the other hand, integrated school cultures would be highly effective in supporting new teachers' self-efficacy as they address such issues by the school principals. Such schools would encourage new teachers to take part in social activities that provide good environments for meeting other colleagues and sharing concerns. There are different pathways for collaboration between new teachers within any school context. Such ways include, but are not restricted to, discussing concepts and organizing teaching experiences with other colleagues, having feedback from other teachers in a constructive way to support their self-efficacy, where mutual responsibility is shared within faculty teachers. Another thing is mentoring and induction programs for new teachers within a professional school community and school leadership programs that encourage new teachers to enroll in educational workshops, conferences, and courses where possible. Providing collaboration opportunities between teachers through these pathways would have positive outcomes on different levels. Firstly, it would create positive environments where new teachers thrive and become more effective. Secondly, it would improve students' outcomes. The literature review showed that collaboration and new teachers' self-efficacy are strongly related and will have strong influence in improving students' outcomes.
In my literature review, I mentioned how student achievement is extremely important, and based on research, it's known that the self-efficacy of teachers has a big impact on student achievement. I explored how student achievement is greatly impacted by a teacher's efficacy through classroom management, teaching innovation, special education referrals, family involvement, and student respect and perception of the teacher. The decision-making and approaches of the teachers with their students and overall classroom management is directly influenced by their efficacy through persistence in behavioral practices and discipline. Teachers with high self-efficacy can confront challenges and are eager to have a progressive approach to their teaching styles by experimenting with new strategies. This definitely influences the engagement and the achievement of students, as it enables all the needs of diverse students to be met by using alternative and flexible approaches. Another important factor that I noted was that higher self-efficacy will be easily and clearly identified by students. That is, teachers who have a higher level of efficacy are deemed more caring by their students as they demonstrate actions of support, helpfulness, and equity.
From reviewing my data collection process, I changed my questions to suit the overarching question and sub-question more effectively. From the data gathered from the new graduate teachers at my practical as well as friends who have recently graduated, the expectations sometimes made them feel overwhelmed and made them question whether they could be an effective teacher. Some even said they were questioning whether they'd put in enough work. From the university, I was able to understand how the expectations at school affected the self-efficacy of the participants. The survey was only given to 16 people, 8 new graduate teachers and 8 student teachers. When answering the question, which person at your school do you feel most pressure from when creating work, the options were students, parents, peers, or superiors. 90% said superiors, meaning either their superiors in their workplace or meeting the expectations of their mentor teachers when answering the question, how do these expectations make you feel about yourself as a teacher? Rather than answer on a scale, participants were given the option to answer with a comment. All comments from all of the participants were very similar along the lines of wanting to be able to work to the expectations of those around them so that they felt like they were doing their job properly.
From the 20 participants in my survey, 67% were female and 33% were male. 42% had 1 year or less of teaching experience, while the remaining 58% were in the process of completing their first or second placement. When asked about their approaches to student engagement and instructional strategies, the data showed 55% were comfortable, 32% expressed they were very comfortable, 10% suggested they were apprehensive, and 3% suggested they were very apprehensive. When asked how they thought they affected student achievement, 32% saw no change, 54% saw an increase, and 14% were indifferent. Interestingly, when it came to classroom management, males had an edge over females, with 40% responding they were very confident compared to 29% of females.
Talking about my data analysis, the semi-structured interview questions were influenced by relevant themes found in literature. Questions were designed around collaboration experiences of new teachers and how that affected their self-efficacy. The interviewees were 4 new teachers and 4 professional teachers. Both groups agreed that collaboration within faculty teachers and being supported by head of department teachers positively affected their self-efficacy. New teachers who had mentoring or guiding teachers within their schools stated that this improved their teaching experiences as well as their well-being. They agreed that this was helpful in improving their self-efficacy as they could find a well-experienced teacher to share their concerns with, asking for guidance and new techniques to try. Professional teachers suggested that such opportunities of mentoring new teachers should be implemented in school policies, as this would need financial support in order to provide resources and programs. Two teachers who worked within the private sector talked about how they found that the school context was so competitive for them when they started their careers, and they were not provided with big support, which made them feel stressed and isolated. Other teachers who worked within the public sector said that they were highly supported within their schools, especially with leadership programs and teacher professional development workshops, which positively increased their self-efficacy. In regards to gender effects on teachers' collaboration and self-efficacy, both groups agreed that it doesn't affect teachers' collaboration directly, but might have little impact within private schools due to the school's vision and environment.
During my observation, my data collection was based on the difference of efficacy between teachers from 2 Year 8 classes and 2 Year 9 classes, and the impact that I noticed this had on students. Initially, teachers were requested to complete consent forms, and observations were made of their classroom management, teaching innovation, student respect and perception of the teacher. The impact of teachers' efficacy on students was measured by taking into consideration student participation, differentiation, classroom discipline, and teachers-student relationship. I observed that all 4 teachers had varying levels of efficacy. One teacher from Year 8 had a very high level of self-efficacy, as this teacher was confidently and continuously motivating her students, rewarding them for completed tasks, and supporting any student who had weaknesses or specific struggles through differentiating the load of work given. I noticed that students were very eager to show the teacher their completed work, as they loved getting praised and appreciated. This teacher had a great level of discipline in the classroom due to the strong self-esteem and a well-established student-teacher relationship. Another teacher had a very high level of efficacy in regards to knowledge and teaching skills, however did not seem to be confident in alternative ways of teaching. But the teaching style seemed to be working for most of the students, as I observed that the class as a whole was very engaged, keen, and were consistently answering questions correctly. So this proved to me that the teaching process and learning satisfaction all showed a strong association with learning outcomes. Another teacher I observed had a low level of self-efficacy and seemed to lack confidence and enthusiasm in teaching. This was obvious as the student did not seem to have a good connection with the teacher, and classwork consisted of mainly copying work out from the board and answering worksheets with lack of interaction. I noticed that many students were not engaged in the lesson and were doing other things on their devices instead of answering questions. The teacher's poor management of the classroom had a direct effect on student achievement.
This action research proposal critiques unfamiliar teaching areas and its effect on the self-efficacy of pre-service and new graduate teachers. The aim was to identify what factors contribute to teacher self-efficacy, then develop ideas to assist schools supporting their new graduate teachers and future new graduate teachers in their practice. In the action research that we would suggest, data collection would take place in Bass High School. Bass High School have a leadership program that supports teachers' professional development through providing opportunities of enrolling in professional educational workshops, as teachers are encouraged to seek such opportunities and get support from the school principal. It would give better understanding to measure the effectiveness of such programs on new teachers' self-efficacy when they are implemented. The method of collecting our proposed research data are going to be done through surveys, interviews, and classroom observations in order to achieve triangulation of data. Teachers and pre-service teachers will be asked to volunteer to be observed and interviewed and take surveys. Participants, when going through the data, will not be referred to by name, but rather by participant's number due to ethical issues. Interviews will be voice recorded, and each participant will have to sign a consent form that informs them of ethical practices that will be put in place.
The research will be conducted through observations, interviews, and surveys of new graduate and pre-service teachers. The issue that may be faced are that with observation, the result can be inconsistent as the classroom is constantly changing place, with some good days and with some bad days. So result may vary from day to day, but can still be insightful when watching for teachers' self-management of their own resilience when managing different learning areas. However, by interviewing the participants and providing them with surveys, they will have the opportunity to answer questions honestly and provide some important data to assist with our research.
Researching aims. Our first research aim is to find out qualitative data that helps us understand how teacher self-efficacy is affected in schools, primarily for teachers teaching unfamiliar learning areas. Our second research aim is to understand how bad the effect is and what damage does it cause in an overall school setting. Our third research aim is to be able to come up with a program or proposal to counteract or assist new graduate and pre-service teachers who are stuck in this predicament.
It's anticipated that teacher self-efficacy will be positively affected through teacher collaboration. Its effects start before new teachers begin their career, and it's through their educational studies and professional practice experiences that a new teacher's ability to engage with colleagues and experts develops, as they might share common goals, experiences, and perspectives, which help to shape their efficacy. Further, it's also expected that student engagement will be affected by a teacher's self-efficacy. That is, a student is dependent on the approach the teacher takes for each task in the learning process, and it is this capacity to perform, organize, and execute that directly influences the effort put forth by students. This is because in order to teach new concepts or skills, pre-service and new graduate teachers must be willing to go through the trial and error process, and if they're unable to do so, then it will perpetuate a negative belief in themselves, which ultimately affects students' learning.